Hello, everyone. It looks like we have everyone joining us and popping in, connecting to your audio. Excellent. And you are welcome. Those of you who are not in my class are welcome to turn off your camera. You don't have to keep it on. We'll have actually 9 really quick presentations today. And before we get started, I do want to remind you that this session is being recorded. All of our sessions will be available on our YouTube channel, so you can go back and watch or share this later. You will receive a certificate of PD from the Department of Ed, and that will be emailed to you after the session. So watch your email 24 to 48 hours and you'll receive this handy dandy PDF with the ADE code that you can pass on to whomever is responsible for your professional development credits. So that will be sent to you as well. Let me get back to my right. Anybody else have like 45 tabs open on your computer? All right, I am Ashley Cooksey. I'm the director of our Technology Learning Center here at the College of Ed at UCA, as well as an adjunct instructor in our Leadership Studies department. This course is our Technology Leadership and Planning course, and usually I have them do a screencast of a professional learning session, but I thought we would take the opportunity this summer to actually provide professional learning for our Arkansas educators. So you will receive your PD certificate, like I said, and we actually have 9 students that are presenting today. But before we get started with that, just a couple housekeeping things. You are welcome to communicate with each other in the chat and say hello, ask questions. If you do ask a question, it's really helpful if you put a capital Q in front of it, similar to how a Twitter chat is handled. That way we can see that it's a question and not just a comment. So before we get started, let's check in with everyone. Tell us who you are, where you are, and which blob you're feeling like today on our blob tree. I always like to do a quick SEL check-in. I do this with students as well, and the blob tree gets used quite often in the College of Ed. We like it because it's subjective, and the blobs are actually really gender neutral, identification neutral, so we're able to share this with our students. Thank you for joining us, everyone. I see some Hot Springs, PCSSD. Oh, Rosebud, not too far. Little Rock, thanks for joining us, Rhonda. Hi, Elizabeth. I know you're right down the road as well. Walnut Ridge, Sherry's on the other side of the state. I had a drive a couple of summers ago for the Department of Ed when I was doing PD. And I drove from Walnut Ridge to, I think it was Hope, Arkansas, after I finished that day. That was a long drive. Well, thank you all for joining us. I appreciate everyone being here. And I know Allison that's in our class is all the way from Denton, Texas, y'all. So we have someone joining completely from out of state. I do want to point out that our College of Ed has several graduate programs that are online, and you can find more information about them on our website at uca.edu/education, or by going to uca.edu online and looking at the COE programs. The instructional technology that just has the MS, which is your master's out next to it, also has graduate certificates as well. And the online teaching and learning is our newest addition. All right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and let's get started with our presentations. Each will be about 10 minutes long. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop those in the chat. Remember to put that Q in front of it just so that we can see it's a question and not just conversation that's going back and forth. And Miss Susie Walker is going to get us started.
Hi, everyone. Like Ms. Cooksey said, my name is Susie Walker. I am an assistant principal at Lakeside High School in Hot Springs. And thank you so much for joining us for the Tech Tools talk that I'm going to give this afternoon. This is a little bit different presenting via Zoom and not live in person. I'm about over Zoom. I don't know about the rest of you guys, but I'm going to talk to you for a few moments about Nearpod. And some of you may be familiar with that. Some of you may not. But I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully this works right. If it doesn't, somebody let me know. Everybody see that?
Yes, ma'am, you are good, Miss Susie.
Okay, thank you. All right, so again, what is Nearpod? Nearpod is an online website, and it offers both a free and paid subscription, and there are various levels. So my district was great when we went all digital for COVID. We actually bought the premium subscription for our teachers to use. The free version has a lot of the features. If you just wanted it for your classroom, there's like a $10 a month version. So it can be very affordable if you find this is something that you're interested in. It does provide formative assessment tools, and it's a way to provide engagement inside your lessons. They have about 15,000 created standards aligned lessons. So you're not necessarily reinventing the wheel. You can take these, you can adapt them, you can remove pieces, add pieces that you need to make it more suitable for your classroom. What Nearpod is not, it is not a replacement for our classroom teachers, and it is not a be-all, end-all learning management platform. It works with your Google, it works with Canvas, it works with all those learning platforms, but it is not itself a learning management system. So you would assign them through your classrooms, through your Canvas, things like that. Again, it's not a replacement for a teacher. I think that that's something through this class and just being in education and making this shift. So some teachers have placed videos inside their classrooms for online learners and thought that was it. But we still have to have that connection. We still have to have these conversations and build relationships, whether we're in person or virtual. So I think that's something to remember. This is not to replace the classroom teacher. And I know Ms. Cooksey said this should be about 10 minutes long, but I get nervous and I talk really fast. So forgive me if I need to slow down. Somebody please let me know. But if you would like to join me at nearpod.com, and it should ask you to join with a classroom code. And you should be able to see the classroom code of EDBLP. And I'm going to go to my screen so you can see what it looks like from a teacher's perspective. And then on your side, you'll see what it looks like from the student perspective. I'm going to leave that code up for just a second. We'll see if people join us. And now I've switched to this, and here the code still remains. So if a student comes in late and they want to join the discussion, you have the code still up here in the corner so they can easily join you. And so if you've established that as part of your classroom norms, a student arrives tardy to class, they automatically know, okay, Nearpod's on the board, let me go and get this. It has some different views. And so what I'm doing is there's a self-paced view. There is a live instruction view or front of the classroom. So what I'm doing is the live instruction. So I would use this while I'm up in front talking, moving around the classroom, and there will be points in here that are student paced. And we can kind of talk about the difference in a few moments. So right here, it tells me who is in the classroom, who is signed up, and you should see a poll on your side. Hold on just 1 second. you should be able to see a poll on your side. Prior to today, how many of you have heard about Nearpod? And then as you're answering on the teacher side, we see who has answered and what has been answered. The great thing I like about this is on my version, and I'm sorry, I've got to get your little faces out of the way. You can hide the student names. So you could actually have this in front of your classroom. So the students are anonymous, but you can kind of get a feel, and then you can have a discussion based around this. So it looks like so far the ones of us that are in class, so I mean, we've got 41% that have used Nearpod. And some of you, since this is a personal learning network and not just PD, you may be able to give me some tips to take back to my teachers too. But again, I like the feature that we can be anonymous and we know what's going on. All right, so here's the part where I can be self-paced with my students. So the students can play this video and answer questions in their own pace. But if I'm trying to kind of manage the classroom time, then I'm going to play the video on my device, and then the questions are going to appear on your screen. So that way it keeps me on a time frame. If I've developed my lesson plan and I want to make sure everything continues, then I'm going to use this option. And this is just really short so that I can show you one of the tools that was available in Nearpod. And so at that point, I've dropped a question inside the video. So now students should have been paying attention for that first 20 seconds or so, and then they should be able to answer the question. And again, just give some quick feedback. So formative assessment, you could use this just at the very end. I won't go through the entire video. I actually dropped another question, but it's just a way for me to show you some examples of what's available inside Nearpod. You saw the polling feature. You've now seen where we can drop the questions into the videos, which is very similar to Edpuzzle. It has a drawing board feature, like a whiteboard they can draw on. There's also, they can incorporate a flip grid inside Nearpod. So instead of trying to go to several different websites, all the tools are kind of composed into this one website, and you just pick those that you need for your lesson. So again, I'm not going to play the whole video, but I did drop another question towards the end. And then also done a matching, and all that does is it gives them pairs. So it's kind of like a memory game or a challenge game. And so it's very good for vocabulary with the upper grades. That's where I used it. I did have to step in the classroom for about 9 weeks because of COVID this year. And so I was trying to pull the resources and the tools so I could try to incorporate those into the classroom with my virtual students, with my on-site students, and then also be able to help my teachers out. So again, this is just another tool inside Nearpod. And then you see here, you can see who's answering, how many pairs they've gotten correctly, and the number of tries it's taken. Now, one of the downfalls that I found when I was using this, and the research that I've done still shows that it is true, that if a student logs out in the middle of this, it's not going to save their work. That's a downfall. So they need to be able to finish this in one sitting. So as you're planning a Nearpod in your lesson, just make sure if it's going to take 20 minutes, that you have 20 minutes of class time available for them to complete this. But again, shows me how many matches they've made, how many tries. And sorry if you were still participating, I just kind of wanted to show you. So then I'm also giving you on your side just an open-ended questions or comments that you have about Nearpod. And so this would be a way, instead of using the question chat here in Zoom that I could see it come up right here. And it would also give me a log later to go back and reflect on my lesson, what could or could be done, could or couldn't be done better. That's exciting that someone can't wait to use it. I really do think it has so many features. I mean, just getting them set up, it's not too time consuming. Just deciding which activities you want to put in here can be the most daunting task. Just kind of trying to wait and see if I have any questions coming up here. I'm going to move on, and then if there's more questions, we can do those through the Zoom, because I want to show you what the reports look like that you can also get out of this for some classroom data. So I am going to go back over to my tech tools. All right. I think I got out of order, so I'm going to jump around for just a second. So I just did a sample student just to show you what the reports look like. So I kind of walked through these same activities that I just gave you. And so when you're done, I should have put demonstration here, but you can print a post-session report. And I just took the snippets and posted them into my slides, but it gives you, this was like a 3-page report. So it tells you how many students in your class were actually participating. So right, let's say we have a class of 25, but 5 choose not to answer any questions. It's going to log that here, that they were not participating. If we had quizzes built in, it would give us an assessment percentage of correct answers there. Here was the interactive video. So my multiple choice question, everyone that participated got it correctly. Again, I only put me in this just for a sample of the report. This was not available when I was using it in the classroom, so I was really excited as I went to prepare this for you guys that this is now available. And then let me go back. So I also went, commonsense.org gave this a 4 out of 5 star overall review of the product. And so that's kind of like a consumer rating, like that's from the business perspective. They've gone in, they've looked at it from a professional standpoint. Getapp.com provided a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and that was based on user reviews. So teachers, administrators, they all gave their comments, kind of like I'm doing here, just on how it worked in the classroom, the benefits, and how easy it was to use. And so I'm going to stop sharing. And again, just quickly, nearpod.com. A lot of information comes from their frequently asked questions. The commonsense.org and the Get app were where I got the ratings. And then in Scheninger's Digital Leadership 2019, part of the reason I picked Nearpod as my tech tool was he discussed that students today are wired differently and prefer access to information quickly and from multiple sources. And they also prefer parallel processing and multitasking. So I really thought that this website incorporated all of those into one, because again, the matching, the drawing, just the ability to voice their thoughts in multiple ways seems to me that this is a very effective tool for students based on what we've been learning this semester. Any questions? And I'm also, hopefully here in the chat, I am going to, hopefully that gives you a PDF to the slideshow that I just posted. And then that way you'll have those links and those websites for review.
Thank you, Susie. If anyone has any questions, you can pop those into the chat for her. And I do want to say that Nearpod has also signed the Student Privacy Pledge, which is a pledge to make sure that they are only using student data responsibly and that they are keeping that student data private. Most of the tech tools that have you sign in with like a single sign-on server where you can go through Clever or Google Classroom, those are on the student privacy pledge because they want to make sure that we're using the tech tools responsibly, but we're also keeping our students' privacy as locked down as possible.
Ms. Cooksey, I will also say on that too, as soon as you log in as a student or as a user, it asks you, are you 13 years or above? You have to acknowledge that before you ever get into Nearpod. So they're doing that on the front side as well.
Great, thank you. And again, if you have any questions for Susie, you can put those into the chat. And our next presenter is Catherine. And Catherine is actually joining us from Iowa. Is that correct, Catherine?
Yes, that is correct. I moved to Iowa from Nevada a month ago. We bought a house. All right. Just 1 second. Can everybody hear me fine? Yeah? Oops, sorry, that's not what I meant to do. That doesn't work how I wanted it to. Just 1 second. All right. Welcome to my short and sweet presentation on Universal Design for Learning, something for everyone. I would like to start by telling you about how my experience as a teacher led me to find interest in this topic. I'll be sharing the presentation slides so anyone who wants to can utilize them in the future. Landing a teaching job in Northern California wine country seemed like a dream come true. The scenery is breathtaking and there's so many recreational opportunities. Reality hit when I started my job as a second grade teacher. Out of 20 students, I had 4 with individualized education plans and 11 that were classified as English language learners. On top of that, the majority were below or far below grade level in reading and math. I was overwhelmed, but felt my teacher training in college and previous professional development had prepared me for this challenge. I had an English language learner authorization, certification in guided language acquisition design, training in explicit direct instruction, and experience teaching 3rd and 4th grade IEP students. The list on the screen includes strategies that I was either taught or were recommended to me by SPED and ESL teachers. I quickly learned that many aids for IEP students resembled those for ELL students and worked well for my struggling learners who were testing below grade level. Even my few students who were at or above grade level enjoyed and benefited from many of these supports. My teacher preparation program used the term student-centered learning to encompass many of these ideas. What a radical concept. Schools should connect to and involve the unique students being taught. Attempting to put theory to practice, I learned it was important to get to know your students and determine what level of scaffolding and differentiation was appropriate for them. Continual reflection and revision is a must. In 2017, I was introduced to Universal Design for Learning. The Center for Applied Special Technology, or CAST, created the original framework in the 1990s as part of its mission to expand learning opportunities for all individuals, especially those with disabilities, CAST 2020. My classmates and I recognized how this model combined many useful themes from our past teacher trainings into an easy-to-understand guide with common modern language. With all the educational technology available today, this framework is beneficial in determining best practices in how we want to meet our learning objectives for our diverse learners before deciding if we have access to appropriate technology that will enhance the student experience. I chose to present on Universal Design for Learning because I think it's worth our time. It isn't a new trend that will quickly be replaced. It isn't a curriculum you have to purchase that will soon be outdated. Today, the Universal Design for Learning is represented through a free tool available online the UDL Guidelines. These guidelines are provided to implement the UDL framework created to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn, CAS 2018. The guidelines can be applied to any discipline or domain to support all learners. I appreciate that the guidelines are continuously researched and revised to stay relevant and effective. Click the image to check out how state leaders are networking around UDL. So if you would like to utilize these slides in the future, they are interactive. As educators, we know from experience that a one-size-fits-all approach is not ideal. But what does the research say? When summarizing widely replicated findings in educational research, the research evidence section of the UDL website explains that variation in student response to instruction is the norm and deserves an adequate amount of attention. For a deeper look into UDL research, click the UDL approach and listen to the UDL in 15 Minutes podcast. Now that we know who made the UDL guidelines and why they made them, let's take a look at how they work. In a nutshell, there are three main components. When teaching, we should provide multiple modes of engagement, representation, and action and expression. These elements cover the why, what, and how of teaching and learning to support educators in reaching the goal of having expert learners. Let's check out the interactive graphic organizer for the UDL guidelines on the CAS website. Okay, so many of you may have seen this before, but it is updated regularly based on research and feedback. This is the UDL Guidelines graphic organizer page. So this is a really, really cool tool. There's definitely not time, and it wouldn't make sense to go through this entire tool, but I just wanted to show it to you and show you how the different sections work. Okay, so like I said before, UDL is based on the three main components of engagement, representation, action, and expression. So the why, the what, and the how of learning. This graphic organizer is built into three more sections on how you would reach these goals. So access, build, internalize. And then within each of those, it gives you different ideas or ways that you would address those goals. So this is a really cool interactive tool, and let me show you. Let's go ahead and click on engagement. So when you click on a topic, it gives you an in-depth definition or more information on that topic, and then everything related to it. So the UDL guidelines include checkpoints for each element. So recruiting interest, how do you spark excitement and curiosity for learning? Well, let's check out this checkpoint. Optimize individual choice and autonomy. We can go ahead and click on it. Once again, gives you deeper understanding of that element. And then I think this is the coolest part of all of this because it shows how well researched and transparent this tool is. We go ahead and click on research, and it tells you why that information is important, which is based on research. It even gives you references. So I'm just really impressed by this. I think it's very professional, user-friendly, and modern. Real quickly, let me show you. If you go to the More section, and you go to, there's all sorts of information that's really cool if you have time. But I recommend going to downloads. It talks about how the graphic organizer is regularly updated. UDL is so passionate about learning in different ways and how there's not one right way to teach or learn that they even provide multiple versions of the graphic organizer. So you can choose which one works for you. Then down here we have this really neat tool called Key Questions to Consider When Planning Lessons. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation. Just 1 second. Okay. Want to hear what others have to say about universal design for learning? Check out these quick and engaging YouTube videos. I tried to find some videos that gave just different takes on the UDL guidelines, but that are short and sweet, because I know that one thing teachers never have enough of is time. And then if you'd like to see some examples of universal design for learning in the classroom, there's an article that you can get to by clicking right here. Here's my list of references. There's so much out there on UDL on the internet, but these are just a couple that I thought were good for a starting off point or a review. I will go ahead and share these slides in the chat box, as well as a succinct list of resource links. I'm definitely not an expert, but any questions?
Thank you for sharing, Catherine. And I know if you've not ever studied or looked into UDL, it is a different concept and different principles than differentiated instruction, which most teachers are used to implementing. UDL dives a little bit deeper than that. So those are some great resources. I did share the CAST website in the chat as well, and I know Catherine's going to pop her links to her presentation in there. If you have any questions for Catherine, you can share those in the chat, or any thoughts, feedback to provide to her as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I really like to use UDL, and if you're not familiar with it, Catherine did use quite a bit of UDL strategies in her presentation to make sure that there was text, a podcast to listen to, videos. So there's multiple ways to engage with that content. All right, our next presenter is Anita.
Hello, everyone. I hope you can hear me. Let's see, let me get this out of the way. Just a second.
You are good, Anita. We can hear you, and we've got your slides on the screen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, excuse me. So my presentation today is, oops, went too fast. The role of technology support, of the technology support specialist. And then my subtopic I chose was the need for tech support. And I know that many of you probably have had to call on tech support various times, because whatever assistance you might need, like setting up your computer or whatever else. So even though I am at UCA, the need for technology support is everywhere and is definitely needed in our schools. So then I went on to talk about the different job titles, which we really do almost about the same roles depending on where you are located. So the different roles that still mean the same is technology support specialist, IT support technician, computer support specialist, help desk technician, computer technician, computer support technician, and technical support technician. Like I said, this is just a few of the titles, the job titles that still encompasses a lot of the same thing. It's technology support specialist. The definition of technology support specialist: technology support specialists work with end users to provide technical support and assistance for technical software and hardware problems. I know that a lot of you like the different applications that you all utilize in your classroom. Sometimes you need assistance with that, and that's what technical support is for. So don't ever feel like you have to feel embarrassed or anything like that. That's what tech support is here for, is to assist you and to make things better for you. Some of the more common problems that we troubleshoot include connection problems, slow performance, inabilities to access data and inefficient programs. Sometimes we may be able to recommend different applications that you can utilize in your classrooms that may be more user-friendly or maybe even at a lesser cost. The purpose for contacting technical support, I found this slide, and it's first of all, of course, is to get help, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help you in whatever manner that you need assistance. We're here to give you direction. Like if, say for instance, if you're needing to purchase new computers for your institution or whatever, then we can assist you and give you some recommendations on what you may want to utilize. We can assist you in getting that equipment with the installation, getting it set up to the internet, and a lot of other different things that is probably too many to list. And then of course, information. We are definitely an information source. A lot of times people contact us thinking that we know the answer to everything, and we do have to possess a lot of knowledge in a lot of different areas. So it's very interesting to me, and I really enjoyed learning a lot of different things, be able to help people in as many ways as I can. Then I put this slide in here. Why have technology support specialists? These are some reasons why this role is significant in educational institutions, not just in educational institutions, but I'm gonna go on to say even in the world in general. But since we're in an educational setting, we'll just leave it there. We're here to help troubleshoot your different problems. We're here to, like your email, if you're having issues with your email, if you gotta send out mass emails to over like 10,000 people, you know, we can help you with that. We're here just to support you. We're here to give you assistance. We're here to give you guidance. We're here to answer the phone with a kind voice and say, hello, how can I help you? And hopefully we'll be able to resolve your problem for you. If we can't, we'll definitely get you to someone who can. We don't give up. We try our very best not to give up. And then I wanted to include this video that I found, and it's Inside California Education Information Technology Specialist. This is a good example of a day in the life of an IT specialist. So here's this video. I'm hoping I'm sharing it and that everyone can see it and hear it. Can everyone hear it?
How you guys doing? Everything okay? My computer doesn't work. I pushed something and now everything's gone. I broke my Google. I think probably you, James, and I need to get together and have a conversation around this. So, look, if you break it, I fix it. I mean, that's my job. I'm here to do that. Everything's working, blinking, lights good?
Everything's working.
Okay. My name is Eli Fox. I am a computer tech 2 with Yuba City Unified School District, and I work at Riverbend Elementary School.
So is this something that I should know how to do?
Not really. I have people who literally their hands shake as they go to turn the power on the computer. They think it's going to pop. And then I have other people who are like, nope, I got this, get out of my way. You want to make sure that people feel empowered and that they're not feeling like, well, they're dumb for asking a question. There are no dumb questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
I work collaboratively with the site principals and the VPs so that everybody's aware of what's actually going on.
I think we need to put our three minds together and we can come up with a plan.
Working with the teachers, our goal is to make them functional. They are priority one. We got to get them up and going because they're going to have 30 kids standing there staring at them, and they're trying to be productive. Really make sure you get your logins figured out and to sign out when you're done, because people will delete your stuff. The interaction with students they are fun. They've learned a little bit of programming, a little bit of networking, and they learn how to create their own little servers. So they're kind of learning some basic technical computer skills that I think going into the future are really going to serve them well. What keeps me coming back is honestly I like the thrill of the problem solving. When the lights are blinking and it's all on, I'm a happy guy. I love what I do, and I get to work with some of the best people in the state. Everything working? Lights blinking?
Everything's great because of you, my friend.
Getting to work with the people I work with is pretty awesome. It's a great day. I have a lot of great days. So, yeah.
The need for more information technology specialists in schools is growing as more districts shift to online testing and learning. A recent survey found that 40% of districts around the country provide one laptop or tablet device per student, also known as one-to-one computing. The biggest challenge cited by school districts was making sure they have wireless networks that can support these devices.
Okay. Oops. Get back to where I was. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Let me get back over there. Uh-oh. Let me find my thing. Oh, this is in the way. Sorry, this is in the way. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so like I said, I wanted to include that video because it really, in a nutshell, put everything together as what we do as well here at IT at UCA. And then my last one, this is how I wanted to give information on how to contact us. I have our phone number, our email address, and our web address. And then when we have problems, some end users want to submit a ticket, some don't. So this, I included the links for end users to submit tickets. And then these are my resources that I use for the various graphics and some of the information that I obtained. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anita. I really liked that video, I think. And then Susie put it in the chat as well that every teacher would love to have a tech person like that in their building. And I know I've had some of those tech support people as well. The UCA tech support is amazing, even for our students. So I know that we all as educators appreciate what goes on behind the scenes with that as well. If you have any questions for Anita, you can drop those in the chat for her. Thank you, Anita. It looks like we have Ashley Simpson up next to share her presentation. And Ashley, I see that you put in the chat about the teacher that lost her world, and she was across the hallway from me, so I would hear that screeching about 7:30 in the morning, my world is gone. We had Max, and so her little Safari icon was not in her dock anymore, and she was just beside herself that her world would disappear on occasion.
I love that. All right. Okay, so my topic was mobile devices, bring your own device, and other policies that come with it. So right here we go. These are just some examples. In an article from Leftronic, it says, based on the latest calculations that are coming from Statista, sorry. The number of smartphone users in the world in 2019, this is just, 2 years ago, it had about 3.2 billion smartphone users. So it means essentially every third person that you meet on the streets owns a smartphone, which is just crazy to me considering they've only been around, for 20 years or so. This doesn't include the other devices that you see listed on the screen in front of you that are also considered mobile devices. So if you think of your own organizations, whether it be schools, businesses, or churches, those organizations have these devices either available for the users that go to those things or that they use just to implement in their teaching to you guys. So what's the need? These devices offer so much more than ever before. So if you think of your own year of growth in the pandemic with your devices, think of all the resources that they provided for you guys. I know, especially with this online class, I have switched to online textbooks just because it's easier for me than going and getting a textbook. I like the Kindle version so I can just flip through and search stuff and all that. They've also, provided the online learning communities, Zooms, things like that. Videos have become super popular. I know I would create videos all the time for my colleagues and for my students as well. And then also they offer such engaging learning opportunities through programs and gamifications, things like that. We used a lot of programs in my school like Prodigy,
or ABC and things like that. So within the last few years, the need for devices has just completely soared. So in 2021, it says Michael Borum, he's a senior consultant for the education technology at Future Source Consulting. He said that the orders for tablets and computers are continuing to surge more than 1 year into the pandemic-induced remote and hybrid learning. So even though we're a year out from where that pandemic started, they're still surging and they're still trying to get orders out and things like that. So it also says that they've had 90% of an increase in K-12 device shipments just from 2020, 90%. That's just insane to me. So I'm going to be talking a little bit more about something called mobile device management, and it's needed more than ever. And I'm about to explain a little bit with that. So, and bring your own device. I am not super familiar with these policies just because my school district opted to give all of our students one-to-one Chromebooks. But I did look into this and I found this awesome website that I'm about to show you guys. And it has really, really, really cool resources for any organization that is considering allowing their employees or their students to bring their own device. So I'm going to show you their website if I can move this. There we go. Okay, so this is the Bring Your Own Device blueprint is what it's called. And on here, it has, you know, their facts and things like that. It has all these PDFs that you can download if you are considering implementing the BYOD policy in your organization. So one that I really wanted to look at, I liked the teacher readiness one, the presentation that you can actually present for your district administrators and for your educators, because both of those are very important audiences to present this policy to. But I actually clicked on the district readiness one, and so I actually already have it loaded right here. But on this, it has a whole checklist of things that you need to consider if you're thinking about having this in your organization. So a couple things, it has the acceptable use policy. Obviously, that's something that is very common these days. And even if you don't know what that is, you are involved in a bunch of them in anything that you use. Basically, how can they use the device? What can they do? Where can they go with it? And then what is protected for the organization from what the kids are using. So a couple of the things that I just wanted to point out on here, I know that I considered as I was looking at this, the curriculum, one of this over here, it says, is the curriculum ready for BYOD? And if you think about it, in education, a lot of the curriculum is just for teacher curriculum. There's not a lot of digitalized stuff for students, so still a lot of paper printing and things like that. So you've got to consider if your students are on their own device, are they going to be able to access the things that you need them to access? Do you have a secure network? How is that enforced? It says, will you allow off-campus access to the school network? Can you protect your network from outside users? That's very important with security these days. And then just a couple more, professional development. Obviously, are teachers ready for this? It opens up a whole can of worms whenever you have different devices such as MacBooks or Chromebooks or tablets. Can teachers handle all of that in their classroom on top of the teaching duties that they already have to perform every day? So another one was, I think it was up here somewhere. Oh, usability. Yes, this is the last one. So usability in apps with the curriculum. So can everyone access the stuff that you need them to access throughout the day? Because that's pretty important when you're teaching. So with this upsurge of devices in organizations, leaders have had to find ways to protect themselves and their users from harmful content. I know that we have a lot of firewalls in place with my district. And so when we first started this year, we started a new program that kind of helped us protect ourselves, but it also protected our students from accessing content that was too mature or wasn't appropriate for school. So leaders have had many options to choose when it comes to picking a policy. So I have created this Powtoon, and it highlights just 3 programs that I researched that seem to be really leading contenders for our education realm and just corporate world as well. So here is my quick video. So obviously leaders have some decisions when it comes to picking a policy. My school district actually uses both Google Workspace and GoGuardian, and both of those have the security features and accessibility for all students in our district to use those platforms both at school and at home, which is pretty cool. So in how to pick a policy to adopt, obviously leaders have some decisions and they have to ask some of these questions. And I just found some of these, and I'm sure there are way more. But, you know, what are your specific needs that your organization wants to address? You know, are you wanting to block YouTube during independent work time? Things like that. That was a problem in my classroom this past year. So how do you want your data stored? Do you want it stored on the cloud, or do you want it stored somewhere on the district where it all backs up to it? Is this policy platform easy to use and understand? Is it gonna, I'm sorry, what? Is this policy platform easy to use? Is it something that you can use every day, or is it going to be a headache to try to get onto and work with? Can you still use your most loved apps with this policy in place? Sometimes the apps do not work with the certain security measures that may come with these programs. So you really have to be careful about that, so you don't make some teachers angry if you accidentally take away some of their most loved apps. What is the grouping like with this policy? You know, who can use this, and can it be used across all K through 12 classes? Is it something that needs to be modified for elementary schools and high schools, you know, things like that? And finally, does this policy work with your budget? I personally do not know, you know, budgets of every single district and things like that, but I'm sure that each of these policy programs would probably try to work with you for you to adopt their program. So as you can see, there are many things to consider when transitioning into using technology more, and in my case, in my classroom. So whether that be bringing your own device to school or adopting management policies such as the ones that we just looked at, as a leader, you've got to decide which is more feasible for your district or school or organization. So hopefully after this whole presentation, you will understand just a little bit of the intricate process that comes behind picking a policy for just mobile devices in general in your district or organization. So if you have any questions, I would love to try to answer them.
Thank you, Ashley. If anyone has any questions, you can go ahead and pop those into the chat for her. I know the BYOD topic can get sticky sometimes, especially with IT professionals, because it's easier on their end to make sure all of the devices are the same. However, it is more economical and budget friendly if students are allowed to bring their own preferred device, not to mention provides an avenue for student voice and choice in what device they use without the district purchasing multiple different types of devices to provide for each classroom. Great. Do we have any questions for Ashley or thoughts about BYOD policies? Okay, we have a few more people to present, but I do want to be mindful and take a quick break. We'll take a 5-minute break before we come back to present. That way you have the opportunity to check in with yourself, stand up and walk around, go grab a drink of water, get up and stretch, or just close your eyes and take some deep breaths. I'm going to mute myself and give everyone the opportunity to do that right now. All right, thanks everyone. I hope that you enjoyed your really quick break, and we're going to move on with our next presenter, Allison. Allison is joining us all the way from Denton, Texas today. Are you trapped in the heat bubble, Allison?
It's not too bad right now.
Texas is hot anyway, so it's hard to tell if it's an actual heat bubble or just normal.
I mean, it's pretty normal right now, but it's humid because we've had some rain. But it's probably going to hit 90 today, so it's not too crazy. Let's see. All right. Let me get in here. Got too much stuff in my way. Okay. So, and naturally I started it at the end. Minimize. Sorry, y'all. It's my first day. There we go. Okay. So, one later time, 9 elements of digital citizenship. Y'all, I don't know about you guys, we did a semester of digital citizenship, so to crank this down into 10 minutes was kind of a challenge, but I'm going to give it a whirl. Sorry, I'm going to be flipping because I'm terrible at this. I'm going to put this down here and then we can look at it. Let me see everyone. So if y'all haven't used Mentimeter, it's really kind of cool. So just kind of as we're kind of getting going, what comes to mind when you hear digital citizenship? I can tell you that if I asked my students, which I did a couple through the semester, what if they'd even heard the terms before, and they said no. And so honestly, I thought that was really sad. They've probably had some sort of training, but not anything that has been addressed as digital citizenship. I mean, they've pretty much heard that, you don't cyberbully, how to act right, how to send emails. But your younger generation, I teach high school, so your younger generation may not be as familiar with those terms. But
you can just stay right there to get me.
Let me back up one. Sorry, guys. Okay, so there's 9 elements. Again, digital, they all start with digital. So you've got access, commerce, communications, literacy, law, etiquette, security, health and wellness, and then your rights and responsibilities. Digital access. So full electronic participation throughout society. Make a difference. First of all, do your students know when to use a technology and have access to it, aware that everyone has access to resources in some form or fashion, hopefully. But if not, teachers should have alternative ways for students to access and complete assignments. It can be provided via paper or for kids with no access outside school, or times when students could come in to your classroom possibly to gain access when it's not available to them. Digital commerce. So of course, Amazon rules everything right now, I guess. The buying and selling of goods online. But there's dangers that come with buying and selling online. Are students aware of those dangers, aware of the benefits? That if they have a bank card, that's basically the key to their accounts. They need to be made aware of that, internet, the padlock symbol up in the thing, in the search bar. And be sure to log off after they're done. They could go to the library, plug in an account on their public computer up there because that's where they can gain access, and then forget to log off of that when they're done. Well, then somebody's got, free reign of their card at the end there. So all right, 3, I put in digital communication, which is the electronic exchange of information. So with that, do students understand what it is to, or what is appropriate to share through email, texting, video chatting? So kind of connecting with Ashley's presentation to use it to your advantage if you've got BYOD. Some of these things will intertwine actually with what she said, so it's kind of funny that we're following each other. So let students use technology as a tool instead of a hindrance or a distraction. Put them to work on it. Use it for a platform for speech presentations. Use the calculator functions. Photo documents as they're working on projects as like a timeline tool. So there's ways to kind of outlie the distractions of using technology, but then again, they need to know that what they're putting out there is appropriate, and that the emails and stuff that they send are there for, they can be traced too. So anything, and that's even as a teacher, they can always find your emails back through time. So you never know what parents are going to say to you, just as an example, but you kind of just have to take it in stride, breathe before you start typing out that email in response, and make sure that it's an appropriate response to them, because it can come back to haunt you later in time. The 4th element, digital literacy. So the capability to use digital technology and knowing when and how to use it. Just because it's on the internet, it must be true, right? So in this one, it's more or less doing a lesson over reliable sites and sources. Do your students know how to use various digital technologies, how to access legitimacy of web resources, having them study examples of both bogus and reliable sources, and then discuss how they're credible or not with that one. Digital etiquette, this one, the standards of conduct expected other technology users. So again, do students know when to use technology appropriately and always be in a positive manner or professional manner if it's not just students? And this is kind of that email that I touched on earlier. We cannot control what someone sends in an email. Don't reply in haste. Take a few breaths and remember that anything can be retrieved. A lot of these will intertwine. You'll see that like the literacy comes with etiquette, comes with communications. So they all kind of intermingle. You'll start seeing common terms, if you look these up, common terms that are within each other. Digital law. So the rights and restrictions, you guys, I'm in the way, governing technology use. Do students understand they have the right to be in a safe and friendly environment, digital communications? and they have the right or the responsibility to report stuff that is not I've lost my train of thought, sorry, that threatens them basically. So to use or not to use. So make sure that students are aware. There should be disclaimers, permission to use, respect comment by citing sources. So number 7, digital rights and responsibilities, the freedom to use all types of technology in an acceptable and appropriate manner. So they have the right to not remain silent. They have the right to be safe and friendly in communication and report anything where they feel threatened. Digital health and wellness, this comes through a lot with SEL or social emotional learning, physical and social well-being in a technological world. Any students aware of physical and psychological dangers of excessive internet usage, technology uses in general. Sometimes it only takes one image, which that one's pretty good right there, but it can be counterproductive, affecting your mood. They get on social media, y'all know this, something triggers something that somebody's posted, or it's controversial in their eyes. So social media versus mood, again, internet, social media, again, versus your self-image. It's not just ladies that happens to. A lot of people think that that's girls. It can be anybody, especially now. And also just give your eyes and your system a break. Let it rest. And kind of like what we just did, that 5-minute walk down, take a breath and let it roll for a minute and then come back to it later. And then the final one, digital security. So the ability to protect ourselves in the digital world. So do students know how to be safe by using different passwords, virus protection, backing up data, being aware of identity theft, and other online scams? So, y'all, sorry. So technology users should use passwords on all devices, never share passwords or any other confidential information. There is an exit ticket. Let me. It's going to share it with you probably, but I'll stick it in the chat too. You're going to see it. So I use Jamboard for this, and I'll pull up the results from the other one. But if you haven't used Jamboard, actually, Ms. Cooksey did we had a guest speaker in one of our classes, and she actually did a Jamboard, and I remembered it, but then when I pulled it up, I was like, wow, that was over digital citizenship as well. So I didn't use pictures like she did. I thought about it and putting them into groups of 3, but it would just more or less be a drag and drop to match the definition with the term or the one of the 9 elements that it goes with. They're simple, easy, not that these match, but you just drag and drop if you haven't used Jamboard. It's kind of fun. And then let me see if I can find, hopefully, and I'll share it with you. That's the Jamboard. That's not what I wanted. Okay, I'm gonna stop share for a second and I'll go back up. Okay, so the Mentimeter, a few of you did it, and that's the point, it's fine. But these things, the Mentimeter tool makes word clouds. So responsibility, using tech appropriately, being respectful, etiquette. So you can use those with anything. I just threw that in there because I thought it was kind of a cool little opening deal. But all right. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them again. And then thank you so much.
Thank you, Allison. And the Jamboard link that you pasted in the chat doesn't have the sharing settings turned on. So if you want to make that where people can view it so they can copy it, you can switch those out. If anyone has any questions, you can pop those in the chat for Allison about digital citizenship. And I remember that was Dr. Kristen Matson shared that digital citizenship lesson, which was really fun in Jamboard. If you've never used it, it's automatically built into your Google Suite. So if you're a Google school, it's just in your apps button in the corner. You can go there and find Jamboard. Lots and lots of different ways to use that as well. All right, Elizabeth is our next presenter. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hello. Okay, let's see if I can do this. Okay, do you see that?
You're on the ISTE standards now in your presentation.
Yes, okay, perfect. Okay, so what I'm talking about today is the ISTE standards for educators. As educators, we are very familiar with standards because we have so many of them per grade level. So if you've never heard of these, we're going to talk about these. What is ISTE? Okay, before I started this class, I'm going to have to admit that I did not know that this existed. I did not know this was a thing. So ISTE is the International Society for Technology and Education, which is basically just a group of educators or people in education that got together to figure out how to use technology to change the way we teach and the way we learn as educators and students learn. They exist for the following groups. They've gone through and lined out these standards. So we've got for students have their own set, educators, education leaders, and coaches, which surprised me. But anyway, if you're wondering where to find them, I'm going to show you actually that website a little bit later, and I can put that link in the chat. Okay, so along with any kind of standards, these are lengthy. I'm not going to necessarily go through and read these for you because otherwise I'm just reading the screen. These are word for word off the standards, but I'm breaking them out just so you can see what they are. The first set of standards that we have for educators are the learner standards. And basically what this means is you as an educator furthering your learning technology. It's focused on your professional learning and how you're going to familiarize yourself with like the current strategies and research regarding educational technology. So this is where your professional learning network comes in. You know, maybe you join a Twitter group and follow, you know, someone that focuses in your area in education. The second standard addresses educators as leader. Maybe you're advocating for, it says equitable access to education technology. So maybe you're pushing for one-on-one devices in your school district. And I apologize if I'm talking fast. I do that when I'm nervous. So if you need me to slow down, let me know. Basically, it also, it's not just you and other educators. You're collaborating with the educational stakeholders in your community, which is, you know, the parents and the students. And you're also, you know, maybe modeling for your colleagues of how to meet the needs of all your students. Okay, the third standard that falls under educators is the citizen standard. Basically, it's having the educator, you're encouraging your students to contribute and take part in the digital landscape as a responsible way to mentor. You're also teaching a student how to maintain their digital footprint, which we talked about in digital literacy, which we've heard some others speak about today. And you're also going to be teaching them about copyright falls under this as well, as you know, not just taking anything they see on the internet and making it their own, because they, as an elementary teacher, we struggle with teaching that. It also, yes, it covers their the digital footprint, like I said, especially their privacy. They really want to share everything, and it's really hard to teach them that once it's out there, it's always out there, and you need to keep some things to yourself. The next standard is collaborator. This always makes me think of PLCs. It says you're dedicating and planning time to collaborate with other educators, with students. Maybe you're collaborating with parents to troubleshoot any technology issues. You're taking that time to learn new resources and to share new ideas. So it's not just collaborating necessarily with other teachers, but again, it's students and maybe even their parents. Again, I will give you the link to all of these. We will look at this website. So I realize I'm kind of cruising through this, but just hang with me. The next standard is designer. This makes me feel fancy, like I'm, designer. So using technology to create, adapt or personalize learning experiences. You as an educator are creating activities and settings to accommodate, your diverse learners and help engage them and to help them learn. So basically that was in a nutshell what all this says. The next one is facilitator. You are helping students progress through their learning and enabling them to take ownership of their learning. So this is kind of where, you're taught to facilitate as you go through your education classes, where you're not up there necessarily, you're not the leader anymore, you're helping them become their own leaders. The last one is analyst. This one is the one where you're going through, as an educator, you're trying to find different ways to assess your students' learning, which we do all the time. And you're doing this anyway in education, so this shouldn't be anything new to you, but this is using summative and formative assessments. And then you're going back to evaluate, what they've learned, what they still need to learn. And this also covers communicating that information to the students, the parents, and your other stakeholders. I do want to show you this. So let's see if I can get this to work. Okay. So if I've completely overwhelmed you at this point and you're wondering, how am I going to use this in class? Because I had that same thought. I found this. This is actually the South Carolina Department of Education put this together. Kudos for them. It takes the standard. Here's the first one, learner. Now, I summarized them, but if you look, it's broken out to 1A, 1B, 1C, which I put them on my slide. I love that it comes over here and it tells you teachers are doing or planning for, and it tells you examples of what fits in that standard. And then you go over here and it gives you a snapshot of what the students are doing that relates to that standard. I thought this was amazing. So let's scroll down. So for leader, you're collaborating with colleagues, and then over here, the students are demonstrating the mastery of what they have done through voice and choice provided by teacher. Citizen, you're facilitating discussions about digital citizenship, which Allison was just talking about, and what the students are doing. She said she had some students that never even heard of that term. Well, then here's what they're doing. They're performing research online and evaluating the credibility of resources, which I do want to note that Wikipedia is a no-no in my class. That is not a viable resource. Collaborator, again, it gives you an example of what the teachers are doing and the students are doing. And I won't necessarily run through all of these. Let's go down real quick to analyst, because I feel like we already do this. but the teachers, allow the students to demonstrate knowledge, and what the students are doing is they're demonstrating that knowledge. Okay, I do want to show you. This is the website that has the standards on it. Now, this is a pretty cool website. If you see where it says standards, it'll show you. You can go to the ones for students, for educators, education leaders, etc. They also do have one for confrontational thinking, but they didn't label it quite as standards. They called it competencies, which is why I didn't list that one. Educational standards, like I said, I've already covered these, but you can click on it and it breaks it out. If you hover over it, it tells you, it kind of gives you a little explanation of what everything is. So let's go back to here. Okay, and these are my references. This is kind of everywhere I pulled my information. And I did have to do some searches to find out, to help kind of explain what the standards were in a way that I could understand it. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'm going to stop sharing. If I can figure out how to do this, stop share. Okay. All right. Was any questions, comments? I will put all these links in the chat as soon as I can. You guys still out there? Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
You're good. Thank you, Elizabeth. The ISTE standards are really impactful when you start digging down into them and planning your lessons and collaborations with other classroom teachers. If you haven't taken a look at those, I encourage you to do so. Any questions for Elizabeth about the ISTE standards? Awesome. Sarah is our next presenter.
Hello. All right, let me share my screen.
I think
I'm going to be talking.
The quote of the year is "Let me share my screen."
Yeah, really. So I'm going to be talking about the digital divide, which so you've heard about all these great tech tools and using technology in the classroom, but then there is kind of that elephant in the room of, does everybody have access? And so digital divide, I just found this, it was defined by ACT Center of Equity in Learning, and the digital divide is just the gap between those that have sufficient knowledge and access of technology and those that don't. And we kind of like to, kind of the rule of education is everybody gets it. Everybody gets equality of education. And but unfortunately, that is not always the case. So also found this from the Ed Trust website. So 17% of children are unable to complete their homework due to limited internet access at home. So that can lead to what's called the homework gap. And then at the end, it goes on to tell you that this affects every state's most vulnerable children, students of color, low income, English learners, disabilities, homeless youth. And so these are the kids that have trouble with equity. So when you look at it all, 27% that don't have sufficient dial-up at their home, 27% are American Indian, 19% are Black. And so you just see that kind of supports what they were saying a while ago. So you see that only 7% are white and only 3% are Asian. And it just ends up with unequal education opportunities for these children. So if you look at these children that are might be in these lower income schools, what is the impact of the digital divide? So everything is digital now. Technology, our world revolves around it. But what about these children that don't have the resources? They experience low performance. They don't have a good competitive edge when it comes to when they graduate school. from high school and going into college, or even applying for a job, they don't have that competitive edge. Convenience of learning, just everything's on the computer. And then just having different learning experiences. Students of color and those in low-income families feel the greatest impact. And so we're doing them a disservice. And so how do we fix this? So we want to bridge the gap. That is what we want to try to do. We want to make this digital gap smaller. So some of the things that I came across while I was reading, I did lots of research on this, watched lots of videos. It would last forever for you guys to see, because it's just very interesting to me, and I want equity for all the children in all the schools. So hardware, connectivity, funding, and teacher training are kind of the big four. So when you think about hardware, we're talking about the actual devices. School use in multiple devices. Chromebooks are kind of the most popular. That's what I used in my school. We were fortunate enough to be one-to-one, but I know that is not the case in every school district. And then this goes on to talk about how the percentages and stuff of devices, but then if you also go down here to the bottom, 90% is still to the traditional means of pen and paper. So just because so much has gone technology and digital doesn't mean there's not a need for the teacher. The teacher and what she does is so important. Connectivity. I think Anita kind of referenced this just a little bit. You've got to be able to connect to the internet. Now, schools, the majority of schools now are able to do that, but you've got to think about when those kids, your kiddos go home, are they able to access the internet to do their work? Just like last year when the pandemic happened and so much went to online learning, were they able to log on? Did they have a reliable device? And so when you think about children in urban areas and suburban areas, we know that suburban areas and rural areas, you're going to have less. So if you look at this, 97% of children in urban areas, they have access. 65% when you go to rural lands, tribal lands, when you think about those, it goes down to 60%. And so how do we reach those kids? And that kind of brings us to funding. So how is funding? There's local funding, state funding, and federal funding. Traditionally, the local funding has been done by property taxes, which makes a deficit. I found these two little cartoons, and here's your city school. It says, I had this sweet little kid saying, I have a dream in a suburban school where there might be higher income, they get more products. And so that leads to unequal funding. And this one says, if school funding was fair, let's trade. When you think about, I mean, I've seen video and listened to podcasts talking about schools that are 5 minutes apart, but one has all this wonderful technology that these kids are being exposed to, and the other one has almost none. Teacher training, I think this is a big thing. We know, we just heard the ISTE standards, and so technology has become such a big thing, and we all kind of got pushed into it last year during the pandemic because so much of our teaching had to come, through Zoom and whatnot. But I think sometimes the PD is not effective. It still leaves us with questions. And I think that's something that will help bridge the gap to get teachers more comfortable and feel confident about what they're doing. So what do? The next steps for this. In 2020, internet connectivity and adequate devices are necessary, not a luxury. So we need to find a way to make this happen for people. Having internet connectivity has been seen as a luxury. Some people just can't afford, so we need to find a way to make it more affordable for them so they can be able to have it. A lot of schools have provided their students with devices and allow them to take it home. So that kind of helps with that. And there are many companies involved And they are looking at making new technologies and making the fiber optics more available and that kind of stuff. And all of that can help our students access the technology that they need. I had many resources for this just because, like I said, I found it so interesting. I didn't include the one video that I really enjoyed. It was called Without a Net. It's like an hour long, but it's really interesting. It talks about a school in Iowa that they got these great devices. They had all this hardware, but they had to keep it it was just in a closet because they didn't have the internet connectivity. And so all the things have to be worked together to have to close that gap. And I'm sorry, I talked really fast. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know and I'll attach this to share.
Thank you, Sarah. I always love when I start digging into the digital divide and inequities that we see within our school district. It breaks my heart every time I do, and I just want to help it all.
I know. Well,
make a magic wand and make it all better.
Yes, and that was hard. I was like, I have to focus because my heart just goes out because there's those schools that don't have connectivity. And then there was this one school that I was just talking about. They had all the hardware, but they couldn't connect. They had the devices to do one-to-one, but they didn't have Wi-Fi.
We even saw that some during the 1920 and 2021 school year, even with educators living in remote or rural areas where they were unable to connect. And we have even Dr. Erin Shaw here on campus will occasionally go to her church down the road from where she lives in Greenbrier because her internet service is so sketchy at her house that she'll go to church to lead her class or drives up here at night because of that internet access.
Yeah, and they have internet access, but it's not reliable. They can't rely on it to even last for 10 minutes, so like I said, it's a luxury that we've got to figure out how to not make it a luxury.
Thank you so much for sharing. And if anyone has any questions for Sarah, she will answer those in the chat and also share her resources with you. And Melinda is our next presenter.
Hi guys, my name is Melinda Aswick, and today I am going to be talking about TikTok. So everyone has done such an amazing job, and I feel like we've learned so much so far. And mine's a little bit lighter because my category that I signed up for was social media. And so I think all of us are really aware of social media and ways in which social media really dominates kind of our lives and especially our students' lives in many ways. And so I think we have a lot of different perceptions about social media and the ways in which it can impact us. And so what I wanted to do for this was, I wanted to challenge myself and challenge you guys to try to see a very popular form of technology, TikTok, in maybe in a new way. So for me, we'll wait a second for that. I joined TikTok pre-pandemic, and I kind of got interested in TikTok because all of my students were like in the classroom doing like different dances, and this was kind of annoying to me. But I was like, maybe there's more going on, and they were like, please let us use TikTok for an assignment, blah, blah, blah. And so I challenged myself to figure out how to do that. And so that was kind of the first way in which I got onto TikTok. And as the pandemic grew, I actually turned a lot to TikTok to learn more. And I think maybe a lot of you have also done the same. And so I want to bring that knowledge into this as we're starting to think about it. Now, for those of you that maybe have never even seen a TikTok, I have one that I have shared with you that is just an example of some of the teacher comedy that you can find on TikTok. So I'm going to go ahead and play that now.
A quick observation tip. If you know you're about to get observed, you tell your students. If you know the answer, you raise your right hand. If you don't know the answer, you raise your left hand. And you will have a whole sea of hands in the air. And if you look unsure about right and left, I'm not calling on you anyway.
So I love that. And I put that on there because I think it's a great example of kind of the comedy that you can see on TikTok. But also you saw that video only took 13 seconds. And even though it was only 13 seconds, it gave us a laugh. It was all something that we could connect to. And it was something that every single one of us could, maybe actually take some advice from going into this. All right.
Quick observation tip, if you know you're about to get
I'm sorry, guys. Okay. So we're going to talk about the reach of TikTok, how TikTok can contribute to your PLNs, and TikTok in the SEs and TikTok in the classroom. So the first thing I want to talk about is I've defined this as teacher talk. And so if you've never heard of teacher talk is the side of the social media app that is dedicated to teachers posting content related to our profession. And this content is multifaceted. It may be about classroom management, it may be about technology, it may be comedy, and it may be lots of different things. You can get really specific in TikTok where you can be looking at English teacher talk, or you could be looking at math teacher talk, or you could be looking at global education talk. Pretty much anything you can think of, you can add talk to it, and there's something that's really specific for you to be able to learn from. And so that brings me into the first way I want to rephrase our understanding of TikTok. Think of TikTok now as a micro PD. Oh, guys, I'm going to check this chat because I'm just worried that I've messed something up. And oh, okay, thank you. I was worried you couldn't hear me and that you guys were trying to chat that. Sorry. So TikTok as a micro PD. So one of the biggest things that I want you guys to take away from this is I really want to challenge maybe your own perception of TikTok if you do have a negative connotation with it. I think those of us that, if you have a teenager or a middle schooler at home that maybe is on TikTok all the time, you may be very resistant to it. Or if you have kids that are like trying to sneak TikTok in the classroom, you may be very resistant to it. And so it may be seen as something that is more so related to younger students or not professional. But I want to challenge you to think of TikTok as something that is actually professional as we start to talk about this teacher talk. So instead of just thinking of TikTok as a silly video that you can watch, think of it as a micro PD. So today we are in a professional learning situation where we are getting to learn from each other, and each of us have about 10 minutes, and we're learning so much in those 10 minutes. But you could also, with TikTok, you could think of it as a micro PD because you can learn something in just 1 minute or 30 seconds. That this is a way for you to quickly digest information and quickly take away a new skill. So I have this quote here that I thought would be a good way to think of micro PD. Micro PD is everywhere. It just all depends on the lens you choose to look at it through. We're surrounded by teachable moments, and life is better when we embrace them. And so right now I want to just, all of you just mentally, or you can even put this in the chat if you want to, think about all of the teachable moments that you experience in a day. Or think about all of the teachable moments that you have when you are just in one class period and you think, oh man, if I could just break this down and remember this one moment, I could share this with my students. Oh, I was putting my kid to bed tonight and they asked me a new question, and that new question made me think about this. How can I take that one moment and share it and teach something from it? That micro PD, and what we can do is take that micro PD and connect it through videos that we can make and connect it to videos we can watch where we're learning. And so what I have here, one of the easiest ways that you can learn in TikTok is through searching hashtags. And I think we're all familiar with hashtags, especially I would assume most of us have been on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, that across all of us that we've accessed that in some way. And so a hashtag is something that is going to connect a topic across different social media avenues. And so any TikTok you can think, or any topic you can think of, could have a hashtag to it. And so in TikTok, you can search by that. And then it also has this really sophisticated algorithm that has your For You page. And so what you can do is you're searching through TikTok, and you have what's called a For You page. And it brings up videos related to the things that your eyes are spending a lot of time watching. Okay. And that's why I'm calling it a sophisticated algorithm, because if you don't like something and so you immediately switch, like you don't like this video of this person dancing and you immediately switch off of it, it's going to stop giving you videos related to that. And so for me, on my TikTok, it's mostly education related with maybe a couple of cooking videos every now and then, right? And so I'm not seeing maybe the same thing that my students are seeing, because there's so many different things that a person can see. And the algorithm is really smart at getting you to see just what you want to see, which maybe has its own problems, but is mostly a good thing. And what I have on the side here is the reach of TikTok. And so I put this reach here because I want you guys to see, when we talk about it as a micro PD opportunity, that it is not just a small opportunity, but rather there are so many ways in which educators and people are coming to TikTok to learn. And so the first one here, hashtag teachers of TikTok, there are over 11.3 billion views of those videos. And so 11.3 billion views so far on TikTok have been dedicated globally to people learning about, or from teachers, or learning as a teacher, or just engaging in that community of teachers. All right, I have teacher tips, that's 107 million views. Teacher tech tips, that's 30 million. Teacher humor, 89 million. So guys, this is just a handful of things that I looked up for you just by going and searching the hashtags. And each video, like you could see in the past video, has multiple hashtags that you can look up that are connected to it. So it's easy to find more ideas and more ideas and more ideas. This is why our students probably spend, or at least my students as high schoolers probably spend several hours on TikTok, because it so conveniently goes through these hashtags, and you can click on them to find more and more of what you like. Okay. When we think of it as that micro PD, I wanted to show you guys this right here, 10 things teachers want from a professional development. So I want you to think about how what I've told you so far about TikTok actually fits what we are looking for professional development. I love that all of you came here today and your summer break, and I hope that you were all learning so much. But going into this professional development, you hopefully had expectations and things that you wanted to get away from it. And so if you look at these, teachers want a voice and a choice in the PD offered. Think about how TikTok is easy for you to find the specific thing that you want to be able to learn about. Teachers want PD that's relevant for their students. I mean, all social media, I think, is a relevant way at this point for us to connect with our students, but especially TikTok, since that is probably the most popular one right now. Teachers want PD, and I'm saying that anecdotally from my observations of what I notice with my students. Teachers want PD they want to use right away. You watch a minute video about how to correctly incorporate a template into a Google slide, boom, you can use that immediately. You don't have to find a website and try to understand what's going on with the website and the instructions that somebody gave you. You can literally just watch what a person is clicking and then learn how to do that. And so that's so amazing. Number 4, teachers want PD that's conducted by professionals with classroom experience. So many of the teacher talk videos are teachers in their classroom, and they're showing you different materials that they're using in their classroom, different ways they've organized their classroom, different decorations they've used in their classroom. These are verified educators, and we can see what's working for them. And what I love about that is that we get to see not what's just working for people in our same co-op or our same state, but people across the nation and even people globally, what's working. And so that gives us lots of new ideas, which leads us into number 5. Teachers want PD that's innovative and creative. It doesn't get more creative than what you can do on TikTok as far as videos go, incorporating sound, tone, images, that there's lots of different ways in which you can make it more engaging. Teachers want PD that makes them better teachers. Absolutely, by connecting through this community and by seeing new ideas, we're going to become better teachers. And we're also going to become more relevant in the sense that we can understand what our students are connecting to about that by checking what we like to connect to. And if you see your student doing, a certain dance or talking about a certain TikTok trend, you can talk about that too. Teachers want PD that's practical, not theoretical. Again, very practical in the way that you can see that. PD that allows them to collaborate and speak honestly. This is where I know I showed you guys that comedy video, but I love this part about speaking honestly, because sometimes we need to blow off steam as teachers, and seeing that what other people are struggling with is the same thing that we're struggling with. There can be something really uplifting about that, in the sense that, hey, when that person really challenged you today and you didn't know what to do about it, there's probably 8 million other people that have experienced that same thing, and someone can make a joke about it, and then you can feel validated that you are not alone. Teacher on PD that will be relevant for a long time. This is because of the format of this, that people are constantly uploading videos. It's going to continue its relevancy as technology continues to evolve as well. And so we're in a really fast-paced society today, and especially all of us have seen in the last year how quickly technology has changed for us. TikTok was a great way for me to be able to keep up with different ideas with how to connect with students virtually. And as I'm not doing that anymore, the ideas are still relevant as far as what videos people are making. And teachers want admin to attend and participate in the PD sessions. You can specifically find TikTokers that are dedicated, that are admin, that are dedicated to their craft and dedicated to what their point of view is. And so that can also help us not only see our point of view as teachers, but also our point of view as administrators or library specialists, or whatever different field you may be a part of, you would be able to find something that would connect to it. And this was from our textbook, but it's originally by Sylvia Duckworth. All right, and here's another reason why it matters, as you can see. One of the big things that we've talked about in our course is how a big part of being a leader in technology is to connect through PLNs, professional learning networks. And they're a crucial part of being a leader in technology, but also just a crucial part of being an educational leader in your school in whatever capacity that looks like. All of us are leaders, and all of us need to be empowered to own ourselves as leaders, but also to own our connection with other teachers through these PLNs or other specialists or other admin. PLNs can be defined as collections of like-minded people with one whom exchanges information and engages in conversation with the main objective of professional growth and improvement. By connecting with people on TikTok, you can start to have a bigger network. You can also have a better way to make goals with what you hope to see yourself as. And improvement is a natural part of being able to learn new skills, as we talked about earlier. One thing I want to talk about as well is talking about those hashtags I mentioned. You can see that a lot of these people that are making TikTok videos are also on Twitter, are also on another form of social media where you would be able to connect with them. And I've seen ones where people will say something like, oh, give me your email and I'll send you this specific slideshow I was talking about in this video. Send me your email and we can start a dialogue about this thing that you asked me a question about. This is a quick, easy way to start building that PLN. Why we want to build those PLNs, for those of you that maybe have not thought about that before. I know, as I said in our class, we've talked about it a lot, but for those of you that are attending, maybe you're attending because this was part of your goal for the summer, was to build that PLN. And so one thing that's really nice about the PLN that I want to make sure that I talk about, and that TikTok lends itself to as well, is this quote right here. We have a greater hope of transforming our schools because there's no need. There need no longer. I'm an English teacher, I can read, I promise. Be a quest to reinvent the wheel. Guys, whenever we had to go online last year and we had to learn a new LMS learning, when we had to learn how to use Google Classroom, when we had to learn how to use Zoom, when we had to learn how to use all of these different things, that felt for a lot of us really isolating and really daunting. But by having these PLNs that we could turn to, we didn't have to reinvent the wheel and we had ways to connect. And TikTok was a big part of this. You know, a lot of you maybe started that Bitmoji classroom as a way to connect with your students. That was an idea that was all over TikTok, and that teachers showed how to use that in different ways. And so you wouldn't have to reinvent the wheel there. You would have, like I said, videos that showed you how to go through that. It's a way to meet teachers, common with teachers connect, and a way to model technology as well, and a way to combat the age-old time problem. All of us say, I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time. Oh, it feels too much time to learn that new skill. It feels too much time to connect with this PLN. This is such a quick and easy way to do it that it gets rid of that. Okay, and just a couple more slides here. TikTok and the ISTE. Earlier, we were talking about the International Society for Technology and Education, and I wanted to show you guys that, you know, if someone was giving you pushback about using TikTok in the classroom or about using TikTok as a micro PD, this is actually grounded in the standards that this connection is a way for us to embody certain standards. So as an educational leader, which again, I hope that we all want to be, one of the standards, one of the areas of the standards is being a connected learner. And so I wanted to show you guys how so much of being a connected learner is what we see here. Remain current on emerging technologies and innovations in pedagogy and the learning science. TikTok is that emerging technology, and it showcases that. Participate in those professional learning networks that we just talked about. Engage in reflective practices. Through seeing other teachers, through seeing their classrooms, what a great way for us to be more reflective about who we are. And develop the skills needed to lead and navigate change, advance systems, and promote a mindset of continuous improvement. All right, TikTok and learning. This isn't just for us as educators, but it can also be in your classroom. So really quickly, I want to go through how you could use it. Easy way for you to make bite-sized lessons that you can share with your students that you could post in your Google Classroom or something else. Easy way to increase participation, and an easy way to connect with students. And that's from an article on Edutopia, which is a great resource for upcoming technology trends. Also, it's a great way for you to learn together, teacher to student and student to teacher, that you can create videos together and you can create new ideas of teaching that way. Video editing, which I think is very much so a modern skill that our students will have to be able to take into a lot of their future jobs. Collaboration we need for everything, and it's a way for us to connect globally and to continue that global mindset. Here are my standard, here's my works cited page of some of the different things that I referenced. And then bonus, I gave you guys a little place where you could look at TikTok creators in different areas. So comedy, which I think is self-care, classroom management, and then tech tips. And I want to encourage you, this will give you a list of some of the major creators that are getting a lot of traction, who have dedicated kind of their side job to making videos for teachers to connect with teachers. All right, and keep changing the world, guys. You're all doing amazing. I talked forever. Sorry.
Thank you, Melinda. If you have any questions for Melinda, you can pop those into the chat for her. And I know Tyler Tarver, who is a local educator here in Arkansas, has tons of TikToks. And our last presenter, we're going to go just a little bit long, so Todd has time to present here from Conway.
Hey guys, so I'm gonna try to share my screen here. Okay, hopefully you guys can see that. So the last presentation of the day, I'm gonna try to get you out of here pretty quick, but my focus today is about gizmos, and you may have used gizmos in the past, but it's really more geared for a science and math crowd. And so it's kind of specialized, so I do apologize about that. But this is something that for us at the high school, I work with the science department. This is going to be one of the things that we kind of rely on this year to help us with recoupment. And so I know some of y'all are probably dealing with the same thing, where the last year of the pandemic, our students, having the virtual option and having the in-person option, we've kind of had to cut back on some of the skill building that we normally would have done. We just weren't as prepared as we could have been, I think, for that. And so it's kind of been hard for us to have a normal year last year. And so we're kind of trying to recoup some of those skills, especially in the lab sort of side of things. So we're going to do some of that through gizmos. So gizmos are computer simulations for math and science classes. They are little videos, computer simulation that you can manipulate and change the settings on and go through different sort of protocols and kind of get some data really quickly for your students so that then they can do something with the data. And so it gives you a lot of stuff to work with and a lot of good lab practice. It correlates to state standards. If you look through here, which we will here in a minute, we're going to go through the gizmos, you'll see that for Arkansas and for the different states, they have those standards already tied to certain simulations. So you can kind of go through and pick and choose based on what you're teaching. So it breaks it down by topic and ties it to specific state standards. It also provides lesson plans and assessments for teachers, especially those who may kind of be new. This is one of the things that really kind of has helped our teachers feel comfortable using it, was because they give you some ideas of things that you can do with it. And it also gives you assessments at the end that we don't use as summative assessments in any way. We use them as formative and just kind of, hey, did you get what you were supposed to get from this today? Exit ticket sort of things. And then it gives you reports. And so from those reports, we kind of know where to go from there. Okay. And so the students really understood this. They didn't understand this. And so it kind of gives us a jumping off point of where the students currently are and where we need to go with our teaching for the next few days. It also has ways that you can explore what other teachers are doing with it. So on Gizmo, you can look and see what lessons other teachers have used. Sometimes teachers will post things in there and you can look at their lesson and decide whether or not you want to do it that way or use their material. So it's kind of a community effort on creating the lessons that you might want to use. Okay, and so some common misconceptions. It is not a free day for students or teachers. Sometimes students get in their head, oh, we're going to do this gizmo and it's just going to be it. You actually have to think about it and do it correctly to get anything out of it. One of the things that I'm an old coach, and so one of the things we always used to say is, are you getting by or are you getting better? And so it's not a getting by day. It's definitely a getting better day. It's not a free day for teachers. You can't disengage from the students because you've given them this. And so having this for a day when you are absent and you have a substitute teacher, it may not go as well as you're thinking it is. Okay. So you do have to be present with those kids and be aware of what's going on there. It is not something to have students complete when you are not prepared. You will have to prepare for this. You will have to go through and make sure you know the settings and what's going to happen whenever you do XYZ on the simulation. And so it is a little bit upfront, a little bit more time consuming. It's not busy work. It is something that we must do something with the data that we generate. We're going to have to use that data, like I said, to then give us a jumping off point on what we're going to do. And it is certainly not the only way to get the information to the students. This is not, I think Susie said earlier, the end all be all of tech tools, but it is something that we're going to kind of use to get some concepts across, especially some things that are in science. There are some things that are less concrete. in certain sciences, specifically physics or chemistry, where it's hard to see some of those concepts. This gives a computer simulation that's a lot easier sometimes to be more concrete when the idea is really more abstract. So it kind of gives you some wiggle room there with that. And so reading through our book, one of the quotes that I really liked was this quote from Eric Scheninger, who said, "Digital leadership is about transforming schools into exciting and stimulating institutions of learning where students are actively involved in applying and mastering concepts both in traditional ways and through the use of educational technology." And I just really thought that was really appropriate for us to remember that, yes, we were going to try to use this technology, but the best thing we put in front of kids is a good teacher. And those teachers that are making decisions based on content, based on pedagogy, and then using technology to enhance their teaching, the best thing we can do is give them a good teacher. And so I just wanted to make sure that I got that in, that we talked about both sides of things, traditional school and educational technology. All right, so let's kind of look through gizmos real quick. So I have a password and a login. This is a paid subscription. So what you're going to see here is the paid subscription part. So first thing I want to show you is here you have classes. So you can sign up, you know, for a high school teacher, I have 7 periods a day. I can put my class periods in there. And if I have different things that I teach, for instance, one place I taught physics, I taught biology, and I taught chemistry. And so I could have those different classes have different gizmos that they could do based on what the subject was. And so you can put your periods in here, and you can put your students in those periods based on their schedule. And so first period, you can put the actual students that you have in there, and it all talks to Google Classroom. So it will populate those classes for you if you connect it, okay?
Todd, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we can't see your screen other than your presentation there. So if you're sharing from the site, you might want to switch that.
Good call. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I thought, well, he's talking about a site. Surely we're looking at it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Let me go to it. How's that?
That's better. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. And so you can have your periods over here with your students populated in there. Another thing that I like about this is you can go to Find Gizmos, and it will break it down by academic standard. Are you looking for a biology or a chemistry or whatever you're looking for? You can break it down by grade or topic or by particular textbooks. Most of the time, I go grade and topic. And then you can see, like I said, this is math and science, but it kind of breaks down there, and you can look through here and find which sort of skills you're looking for, okay? And so I'm going to go to one. Let me go to biology. And so you can pick one of these, okay? Natural selection. And if you look on the teacher side, down here at the bottom, you have lesson materials. And so these are student exploration sheets, and you have PDF, Word, and actually now Google Docs. So you can, if I open that up, you can have the students complete it in a Google form and turn it in electronically. So those who are virtual can still do the same sorts of things that you have students in class doing. If I go to Launch Gizmo, you have a set of numbers over here that you have set up, and you have tables and you have graphs. And so you can click through here and you can press play. And so now I can see the lighter ones, and so I can take those off of there. And as the year goes, I got all of them. Okay, that year is over. And so what's going to happen is it will take data on light moths versus dark moths. I found all the light ones. I didn't find all the dark ones. And so my numbers have now changed, and it keeps a record of that. And so you have data that you can do activities with after this. And so it's a really quick way to get some simulations for students. Another thing that I've done with this is I've used it as notes. And so instead of having the students complete this and me walking around and them in partners and kind of working together, I have completed this together. And so if you go to lesson info, you can actually make this, you can make this full screen. And then I give my wireless mouse to students and we go through it as a class together up on the overhead projector. And so it kind of gives us a way to have conversations throughout and to talk to each other about what's going on. That has been really effective. If you look down here, you have your assessment that you can give to students, and that comes up in a report that tells you which students got which answers correctly. It's a real quick exit ticket that you can have for this lesson. Another thing that we're going to do with it this year, and this is basically the last thing I'm going to show you today, is we are going to, let me switch screens now. We're going to write CERs with it. So claim evidence reasoning, if you're a science person, you know what that means. And so here I have just some examples of things that we've done, worksheets that kind of keep people moving down the right track and leads them to answer their CERs. Write those claim, evidence, and reasoning paragraphs at the end of a lab so that we have a better understanding of the data that we're getting. And so these are the things that we're going to try to do kind of with gizmos as we move forward. And if let me see if I can go back to that. Yep. You can see my references page from here. If y'all have any questions, I'll be happy to answer about gizmos.
Great, thank you so much, Todd. If you guys have any questions for Todd, you can put those into the chat as well. If it looks like Melinda did share her resources. If you presented today and you did not share the resources in the chat, take a second to go ahead and copy and paste that for others so that they can access your materials. This session is recorded, so it will be on our YouTube channel, and the link to that is already in the chat within the next few days. Usually we say about 2 weeks just to give us time to edit out anything that needs to be cut. You'll also receive your PD certificate and an evaluation. So if you'll take a second to fill that out, it's very helpful for us to know what was beneficial for your professional learning this summer. Thank you all so much for presenting and for sharing today. I know some of you, it was your first time presenting, and I think they all did a wonderful job. If you have any questions for any presenters in the chat, you can go ahead and pop those in there. And I do apologize for us running late. And I appreciate all of the students in my class for presenting. Thank you so much.